Welcome to the installation video of the Rockslide Engineering Step Slider on a Jeep JL Wrangler Unlimited. The installation process is very similar on a Jeep JK Wrangler Unlimited. To begin, start on the driver's side. Remove 2 front pinch seam bolts. Leave the holes open and keep the hardware, as you will reinstall it as your final step. Locate the 3 body bolts on the underside of the vehicle. Back the 3 body bolts out about 1/4 inch to allow free movement of the washer up and down on the bolt. Identify the 3 mounting brackets that will be used for the front, middle, and rear mounting positions. Refer to the installation manual for a diagram of what each bracket looks like for the JL and the JK. With each body bolt loose, slide each bracket between the bolt head and the washer. Install the rear and middle brackets in straight. On a JL, install the front bracket at a 45-degree angle to the Jeep with the bracket between the bolt and head washer, twisting it straight so the bracket faces towards the side of the Jeep. Install the bump strap onto the side of the vehicle where the body bends just under the door. Test fit the bumper strap by lining up the strap on the bend with the little notch toward the rear of the Jeep facing down over the body seam. Once you have the correct location, pull off the VHB plastic backing and adhere to the Jeep in the selected location. For additional information on this mounting location on both the JK and JL, refer to the installation manual. Mount the step sliders onto the side of the vehicle by lining up the step with the pinch seam soles and sliding the strap studs through the pinch seam. The brackets mounted earlier should slide above the body of the step slider. There should be some play in the brackets to allow up and down movement to slide them above the step slider body. Once mounted, the step should hang onto the pinch seam by itself, but don't apply weight to it until securely mounted. Start securing the step slider bolts to the pinch seam. Starting from the front of the Jeep, you will use a 1/4 inch nylock nut and washer on the first bolt closest to the front tire. Then, working your way toward the rear of the Jeep, a 5/16 inch nylock nut and washer on the second, third, and fourth bolts. You will then use the 1/4 inch nylock nut and washer on the 5th bolt, and finally a 5/16 nylock nut and washer on the 6th bolt. Tighten down about halfway. Using 12 of the 5/16 hex head bolts with washers, install the bolts into the brackets through the 4 bolt holes for each bracket on the underside of the step slider. Install the bolts loosely. Once all bolts have been started into the 3 brackets, tighten down the 6 pinch seam nuts first and torque to appropriate specs as stated in the instruction manual. Then tighten down the 12 hex head bracket bolts and torque to appropriate specs. Now you can tighten down the 3 body bolts and torque them to appropriate specs. Repeat these steps and install the passenger side step slider. To begin the wiring process, trim will need to be removed and you will need access under the carpeting as well as access to the grommets in the rear seat floor on both the driver's and passenger's side. On the JL, the trim panels have fasteners on the underside, so you will be able to pop them off with a little steady pressure. On the JK, there are plastic fasteners that push through the top of the trim pieces that will require the use of a trim removal tool. Gently pop the front trim panels off, taking care not to damage any of the plastic trim parts, fasteners, or locking tabs. Remove the trim panel located behind the driver's seat. To provide you more access to this trim panel, it may be easier by moving the driver's seat forward. On the passenger side, you may need to loosen the trim panel behind the front passenger seat enough to be able to pull up the rear seat carpet. Once you have all the trim panels removed, prepare the wire harness for install. First, remove the fuse located on the smaller portion of the harness. It may be helpful to lay out the harness first and identify the quick plugs using the included wire harness diagram. The wires attached to each quick plug are color-coded, and the wiring locations are defined in the wire harness diagram. Attach the smaller portion of the wire harness with the removed fuse to the battery by removing the nuts on the positive and negative posts. Attach the red wire eyelet to the positive and the black wire eyelet to the negative, and reinstall the nuts to secure the wires to the battery. Next, route the wire harness across the engine compartment, against the firewall from the battery on the passenger side, over to the firewall access point on the driver's side. Route the wire harness through the port in the firewall, feeding it into the cab of the vehicle. Once you have the wire harness in the desired location, zip tie it into place along the firewall, making sure it does not interfere with any other wiring or components in the engine compartment. Unravel the large harness in the rear seat and route the rocker switch connectors and the orange and yellow sensor connectors to the front of the vehicle under the removed panels. Next, feed the 18-pin connector portion of the wire harness underneath the carpet over to the passenger side, and then feed the gray and green sensor wire under the carpet to the front of the vehicle on the passenger side. Behind the driver's seat, lift the carpet to locate and remove the floor grommet. Feed the black and red actuator wire connector through the floor plug hole. On the JL, this plug looks like a plastic cap that will need to be removed. This is not the drain plug located towards the interior of the vehicle. If you are installing the optional LED light kit, also feed the brown and dark brown wire connector through the hole as well. Repeat this process on the passenger side. If you are not installing the LED light kit, just leave those connectors inside the Jeep curled up under the carpet. Before mounting the sensor to the Jeep, prepare the selected location and the sensor surfaces with the provided alcohol wipe. Then mount the sensors with the included double-sided tape just under the door latch. Now plug the door sensors into the wire harness and feed them up the door frame so each sensor is near the door latch in the door jamb. Mount the magnets onto the doors that will trigger the sensor. To ensure the magnets stay securely in place, it is recommended using double-sided tape or an adhesive. Place the magnets on the door just below the latch so that the magnets line up with the sensor when the door is closed. From underneath the Jeep, connect the actuator wire connectors to the wires from the step slider on both the driver and passenger sides and securely tuck the wire up and behind the slider, and pull any excess wire back up into the cab through the floor plug hole. Near the driver's side kick panel under the dashboard, locate the mounting point for the provided rocker switch bracket. Loosen up the bolts, slide the black bracket into place. Attach the black ground wire by sliding it behind one of the loosened bolts. Feed the wires through the hole on the bracket. Connect the wires to the switch, making sure you plug the blue wires onto the silver ends of the switch and the red wire onto the bronze end of the switch. Install rocker switch into the bracket and tighten the golds back down. For additional information on this mounting location on both the JK and JL, refer to the installation manual. Near the passenger rear side door, plug the circuit board into the 18-pin connector and secure it under the rear seat, either by using zip ties to mount on the underside of the rear seat or tucking under the carpet. Be sure to carefully test the lowering of your rear seat to ensure the circuit board is not damaged by the rear seat frame. At the driver's side front door, attach the small wire harness bullet connectors that you pulled in from the engine compartment to the large wire harness. With all the wires connected and routed, reinstall the previously removed trim and carpet. Replace the fuse in the small wire harness near the battery on the passenger side, and then turn the power switch on to cycle power through the circuit board for the first time. You will observe the step extend down as part of this power cycle boot up. Close the door and the step should retract. If it does not, simply adjust the door magnets to make sure they are properly aligned with the door sensors. Finally, with the steps operational, open the driver's door to extend the step down from the step slider and turn the power off from the rocker switch to keep the step in the down position. Reinstall the 2 pinch seam bolts that you removed in the very first step of the installation using the same hardware you had set aside. Repeat this on the passenger side. Congratulations on the installation of the Rockslide Engineering Step Slider for the Jeep JL and JK Wrangler Unlimited. For questions on installation or warranty, contact us via email at support@rockslideengineering.com. To find more great products for your Jeep, visit rockslideengineering.com.